Shout out to the 10 American patriots that were arrested in connection to a violent attack on an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas on Independence Day. The group unleashed gunfire on multiple officers at the site and vandalized multiple vehicles and structures, spray painting the words ICE pigs and traitor. The group was dressed in all-black military-style clothing, equipped with body armor, radios, and firearms. Other items that was found on them were posters and flyers with the phrases "Fight ICE Terror with Class War" and "Free all political prisoners," as well as a flag emboldened with the phrase "Resist fascism, fight oligarchy." I'm here to remind you guys that it's our right as Americans, protected by our First and Second Amendments, to form regulated militias and overthrow tyrannical governments.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Verse or Belly Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we are gonna come up to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
Shit getting crazy. 10 people then finally snapped in Texas and attacked the ICE facility. But you gotta think about it, man. They probably got family members that need FEMA right now, and instead of them giving them the money to help the people who have just been basically flooded, and like all them people that's lost, all them kids that's lost, instead of giving them bread to help them out and sending in rescue teams and allowing America to do their part, they gave that Donald Trump put all that bread into ICE, into the National Guard, staying out and doing nothing and going on like a little fun, like fancy parade. So I mean, they trying to charge all 10 of them with attempted murder. If there's anything the people can do about it, I'll be there for them, but they got legal fees. I'm putting something in the pot for sure. These is patriots we talking about.
So pretty much a bunch of white people fucked around and found out that you don't attack a border patrol facility. On July 4th of 2025, there was an ambush at the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, where these 10 individuals allegedly lured ICE officers with fireworks before shooting an Alvarado police officer in the neck. And the funny thing is, they all left forensics at the scene, which included graffiti, like ICE pig, and fuck you pigs on vehicles, which suggested that they all had a premeditated attack in mind with ideological motives. And the incident just reflects a rare escalation in anti-ICE sentiment. But the funny thing is, besides this lady right here who kind of looks like she's Indian Asian, all of these people are white. None of the people that ICE is going after are in this mugshots. Now my question is, if the people that are being deported aren't causing these kinds of problems, why are a bunch of white people?
Alright guys, did you guys hear about this? 11 guys ambushed an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. So the story goes, on July 4th, okay, a bunch of guys fired fireworks outside the facility to lure ICE agents outside, or law enforcement agents, whoever was in that building outside, so they can ambush them. Now, what the agents did not know is that there's going to be an ambush following as soon as they come outside. Now, 2 agents that were unarmed came outside to just see, why are people firing fireworks outside my work building? Another law enforcement agent came outside and was shot in the neck. Luckily, he's stable and he's going to survive. Now, 11 people were there in total. 11 guys were there in total when the ICE officers came outside and, got the situation under control. They found an AR-style rifle that had jammed. Thank goodness that rifle had jammed. Now, the men, they were in military-style uniforms. They had equipment. They had gear. And they got out of there. They left. Okay? I think they left because the rifle had jammed and their plan went to shit. But they were eventually pulled over and all of them were arrested. Now, the charges that the 11 guys are going to be getting is 10 suspects were charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer and 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a violent crime. Now, the 11th person, that lucky SOB, was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to attempt to conceal and destroy evidence. Anyway, like the video, comment down below. Don't forget to follow me. Talk to you later.
Who said violence is not the answer, baby? Y'all better look up the ICE facility that was attacked in Texas, okay? It was 10 people. They was dressed in military, like, uniforms. They had walkie-talkies. They had everything they need. They was out there demolishing shit. You understand me? They put in so much work that they got the ICE workers that's supposed to be detaining these people. Oh, baby, they quitting. They're saying we don't want no smoke. Now, you got to be a bad motherfucker to make people like that quit. Because I'm pretty sure they was getting paid a good little penny. But they see that ain't nobody playing. Ain't nobody playing. I don't know where they go for me at. I don't know where they at. I do need more information on that if you know anything. But baby, they is not playing. They saying that fuck all that. Fuck what y'all talking about. We making sure that our people is good. Y'all be sitting up here talking this shit, but we gonna walk this shit, all right? They got together and they said we about to fight back ICE. They said fuck all this fascism that's going on in America. We is not going for it. And I love that because the American system has taught y'all to be peaceful protest. We done been so fucking peaceful and we still got fucking orange man in office. We still got all this bullshit raining down on us. When is y'all gonna wake up? Ain't no fucking peace. Ain't no peace for the wicked. Baby, you gotta be ready to get in the field. Y'all not ready to get in the motherfucker. You gotta be ready to get in the field. You gotta be ready to get in the fucking field. Y'all ain't ready to get in the goddamn field. And that's the problem. But these people, they got in the fucking field, okay? Let me know when you're ready.
You won't see it on the news, but there was, I think, like 10 to 14 people that took it upon their own hands to go through in one of the detention centers in Texas. And now, of course, they're being called terrorists and they're being given charges and everything else. But this is literally what the Second Amendment is about, okay? I think. The reality is they want to make an example of these people, right? Give them these crazy charges. The kind of charges they did not give any of the January 6 rioters, by the way. But this is the energy that we need. It's quite literally they can't arrest us all at this point. They can't contain everyone. They can't arrest everyone. And little things like this, not only is it bound to happen, but most likely these are people that are not only just extremely passionate about what's happening right now, these are people that probably are affected. They're seeing their friends, family members, everyone else, like, being taken advantage of. I'm not even in the States right now, okay? But seeing the footage of just some stuff that's happening is absolutely destroying my mental health. So what do you expect when there's people like this and it's literally their family members, their husbands, like people that they know and care for being taken into these places? We're going to see more of this.
It was underreported for a reason, but some folks attacked an ICE facility the other day. The activists fired fireworks to lure the ICE officers out of the facility, and then someone shot the officers. Is that nothing but an open response from citizens against our government? Is that not a sign that the social contract is broken? That our government is at active war against its own citizens? Not the sort of war in the background that's been going on for decades with our lack of access to healthcare, affordable housing, and things like that. That's violent too. This is overt. The folks who planned this attack had full military gear. My question is, if your neighbors, your family, your community is under attack by the federal government, and there are people being shoved into vans, disappeared left and right without a trace, nobody can find them, you have no idea where they are, they could be in another country by now. What other response do you have? Government hasn't answered to being yelled at and having signs held in front of their residences. They haven't answered to phone calls and emails. So of course, when your voice goes unheard, the next thing to do is to get really loud. For the record, I do not endorse violence. However, when we see violence, it's important to contextualize it. When all you've ever known is violence, and then the government turns around and ratchets that violence up to a degree you've never seen before. When ruthless, masked, unidentified people come for your neighbors and loved ones. What other recourse do you have under a system which tells you to sit down, shut up, and wait for your turn to speak, and maybe you'll see change? This is not the last time this is going to happen. In fact, I would venture to say that half the reason this hasn't really been reported on and published in the media too much is because they're worried it's going to make people start thinking about doing the same thing. And if this incident and that potential domino effect isn't a sign of the very precarious place the American empire finds itself in at the moment, well, I don't know what else to tell you. The deterioration is quickening. And some of us might have to learn some skills we didn't imagine ourselves learning very soon.
So this happened in Texas on the 4th of July, on the day most Americans associate with fireworks, freedom, cookouts, and national pride. Something else exploded, not in the sky, not in celebration, but at a federal immigration detention center, Prairieland, Alvarado, Texas. 11 people, all but one of them white, decided that the best way to spend Independence Day was ambushing an ICE facility using fireworks to lure officers outside. Fireworks as a bat, a distraction tactic straight out of some paramilitary playbook. And when officers step outside, one of them unarmed, one of them just doing their job, he got shot in the neck. Now think about that. You are a federal officer working outside to investigate fireworks, harmless, right? Normal for July 4th, right? Then bang, you are shot. The shooter is not some cartel member, not a migrant resisting deportation. It's some white guy in tactical gear, waving an AR-style rifle. And if you are wondering what kind of plan this was, it's obvious. This was premeditated, ideological, and dangerous. Let's break this down. When law enforcement arrived and took control of the scene, they found an AR-15 style rifle that had jammed. That one malfunction might have saved lives. Had that weapon functioned properly, this could have been a mass casualty incident, a bloodbath. That one jammed rifle tells us their plan wasn't just vandalism or intimidation. It was violence, premeditated violence. But what makes this case so striking isn't just the level of violence, it's who did it and why. Out of the 11 arrested, 10 were charged with multiple counts of attempted murder of federal officers and firearms charges. The 11th, apparently less directly involved, got charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to destroy evidence. But here is what really gets under people's skin. Every suspect but one appears to be white, and not just white, but fully kitted out in military-style gear. And that blue person of color, possibly South Asian or Indian descent. So here we are, staring at 10 white people. People who don't look anything like the migrant ICE is tasked with detaining or deporting, mounting a violent tactical ambush on a federal facility on American soil on July 4th. Ask yourself, what does that mean? Because this wasn't a protest, this wasn't a peaceful demonstration, this wasn't an occupied ICE march or a sit-in. This was an ambush with weapons against law enforcement. And here's the question that makes this whole thing deeply uncomfortable for America. If the people ICE is going after the undocumented migrants, the asylum seekers, the visa overstays, hasn't the ones launching these attacks, then what exactly are we afraid of? If violence against ICE comes not from immigrants, but from white, homegrown, ideological motivated extremists, then who is the real threat? It's a question the American public and particularly the law and order political crowd are struggling to answer. Let's rewind for a second. ICE, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, has long been a flashpoint in Americans' immigration debates. Some view ICE officers as defenders of national sovereignty, enforcing immigration laws and protecting the homeland. Others see them as an agent of state oppression, ripping families apart, conducting raids in communities of color, locking people in cages under inhuman conditions. Over the past decade, the anti-ICE sentiment has grown. Protests, documentaries, lawsuits, social media campaigns, activists in major cities organizing abolished ICE movements, college students, church groups, immigration lawyers, but never anything like this. Because what happened in Alvarado wasn't organized by dreamers. It wasn't an act of desperate resistance by people trying to avoid deportation. It was carried out by people who probably wasn't even being targeted by ICE at all. So we need to ask, what the hell is going on? Let's talk about ideology. The grifting found at the scene included things like ICE pig and fuck you pigs. This wasn't just criminal, it was political. This was messaging, this was theater. The suspects wanted to send a statement that they hated ICE, that they hated cops, that they saw law enforcement as enemies, and they were willing to bleed for that belief or make others bleed for it. Now, in American culture, the term pig has long been used as a derogatory label for police officers dating back to the 1960s. Radical left-wing and counterculture groups used the word to dehumanize and criticize law enforcement. Think about the Black Panthers, think about the Weather Underground, think about the anarchic collective and militant anti-fascist groups. But what is irony here is that many of those groups are made up of marginalized people fighting systems that directly oppress them. What exactly were these white suspects fighting against? Their own privilege. The racial dynamics here are undeniable. Imagine for 1 second that 11 Latino men showed up with AR-15X and tactical vests outside a federal immigration facility and shot a cop in the neck. The narrative would be very, very different. Headlines would scream cartel terrorism or illegal immigrant attack on homeland. Politicians would be foaming at the mouth, calling for National Guard deployment and border crackdowns. Fox News would have wall-to-wall coverage labeling it a foreign invasion. But when it's 10 white guys, suddenly it's monkey, suddenly it's mental health, suddenly all ideology are confused, or anti-government extremism. Maybe they were just misunderstood, maybe it was a protest gone too far. There is a double standard, a serious one, and this case highlights it more than the most. So who are these guys? As of now, not much has been released publicly about their backgrounds, but based on their gear, tactics, and willingness to use violence, it's not a stretch to say they have been radicalized in some way, whether through online spaces, militation, culture, or anti-government historic. And it makes you think about the January 6th Capitol riot, where many of the participants were also white, heavily armed and full of belief that they were doing something righteous, even patriotic. That same twisted sense of mission is at play. These guys didn't see themselves as criminals. They saw themselves as warriors, as liberators, as soldiers for a cause. They thought they were on the side of justice, which makes them even more dangerous. Let's talk about law enforcement response. The officer shot in the neck survived, thankfully, and reports say he is stable, but that doesn't minimize the seriousness of what happened. Someone trying to execute a federal officer on American soil during peacetime on a national holiday, and again not for a terrorist cell in the Middle East, not from foreign enemies, but from within, from white American citizens. And yet, where is the national outrage? Where is the presidential address? Where are the thoughts and prayers twists from Congress? Where is the national security advisory? It's quiet, too quiet. Some might say, well, they got caught, they are being persecuted. The justice system is working. What more do you want? What we want is consistency. If the suspect's skin color had been different, would the reaction be the same? Would the headlines be soft? Would politicians be so silent? That is the core issue here. The gap between what America claims to value, law and order, homeland security, anti-terrorism, and how selectively those values are applied. And here is the deeper truth. America has a white extremist problem, and it's getting worse. This wasn't a one-off. This was a warning sign, a blinking red light. Over the past decade, multiple reports from the FBI and DHS have warned about the rising threat of domestic terrorism, specifically from white nationalists and anti-government groups. And yet, resources continue to pour into the surveillance of immigrants, Muslims, and black activists, while the people actually committing these attacks continue to operate under the radar. This attack should be a wake-up call, and we need to ask, how did these 11 individuals organize? What platform were they using? What echo chamber we are feeding them? Was it Reddit, Telegram, Facebook groups, Discord servers? What was the funnel from ICE is bad to let's go shoot up an ICE facility? We need answers, and we need to stop pretending that all violence comes from outside the country, because increasingly it's coming from inside, from people who look like average Americans, who have jobs, who pay taxes, who mourn laws, who wave flags, and who are secretly trailing with rifles in the wood and plotting ambushes on federal facility. So what happened next? This suspect will face serious charges. Attempted murder of a federal officer isn't light. They will be prosecuted in federal court. Some might take plea deals, others will go for trial. and depending on how the media handles it, this story will either disappear or become part of a broader national conversation. Let's hope it becomes the latter, because this isn't just about ICE, it's about who gets to use violence in America and who gets to label a terrorist. If 11 white people can mount a paramilitary state-style ambush on a federal building and it doesn't trigger a full-blown national reckoning, then what does that say about us? If migrants trying to escape violence in Honduras or Haiti are seen as threats, but armed white extremists with rifles and tactical gear are just ideological protesters, then we have got the whole thing backwards. This incident shows us that the threat isn't just at the border, it's in our own backyard, in our own neighborhoods, in our silence, and in our refusal to call it what it is: domestic terrorism, white extremism, ideologically motivated violence. So the next time you hear someone say, "We need ICE to protect us from dangerous immigrants," remember this case. The people ICE is hurting didn't shoot anyone, but white men in tactical gear did on July 4th in Texas at a federal facility. Let that sink in.
And if you watched up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.